Minister Graceful.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me to join in this debate. I thank the members, Mr. Louis Ng, Ms. Cheryl Chan, Mr. Gan Tian Po, Ms. Po Lee San, Ms. Henny So, and Mr. Don Wee, who have tabled the motion for drawing the attention of this House and the public on the important topic of climate change. Like all of you, sustainability is close to my heart. It has been almost a decade since I first joined MEWR in 2011. And in MCCY, sustainability often featured in my engagement with our youth and citizen groups. I can speak for all of my colleagues in MSE and across the government that we are encouraged by this debate and the strong voices of support for the work that we do every day to promote a sustainable Singapore for all generations. Sustainability has always been a part of Singapore's DNA, always. Even before the term became widely used, we have always pursued sustainable development by balancing economic growth with protecting our environment. As early as 1967, we had the vision of a garden city and took active steps to make this a reality. The 1971 Clean Air Act, with its stringent pollution controls, is another example of our early actions to not industrialize at the expense of the environment. In the 1980s, we undertook the monumental task of cleaning up our rivers and made Singapore River the icon it is today. More recently, we launched the ABC Waters Programme, active, beautiful, clean waters, to realize the full potential of our water infrastructure beyond their drainage and water storage functions. Generations have transformed Singapore into the green and clean city we enjoy today. As we enjoy walks along our parks and waterways, we can take pride in the progress we have made. With climate change looming, we will and we must continue to pursue this path of sustainable development. At the 2019 National Day Rally, Prime Minister Lee outlined the government's commitment to understand, mitigate and adapt to climate change. Across the government, we have charted out specific strategies to support our sustainability drive in the various sectors. Our inaugural Zero Waste Master Plan strives to transform Singapore into a zero-waste nation powered by a circular economy. Our energy story aspires to transform Singapore into a bright green spark for the world. We are on track to transform Singapore into a city in nature. These are just examples, some examples of ongoing efforts to energize all sectors to make climate change and sustainability core considerations. The government's commitment is underscored by our decision to rename my ministry to include sustainability. We have been able to come this far by safeguarding not just the environment, but also ensuring economic growth and social inclusion, and galvanizing Singaporeans to build a fair and just society of hope and opportunity that is sustainable, inclusive, and resilient. In doing so, we've always been keenly aware of our strengths and also our constraints. This awareness has prompted us to tackle our challenges pragmatically and turn constraints into opportunities. As we look ahead to strengthen our national approach to climate change, it is important to recall our key immutable realities. First, our physical limitations. We will always be a dense and small island city-state. We have limited land, which we use to support diverse needs, including defense, industry, transport, housing, and greenery. As members noted, land use in Singapore will always be a trade-off between competing needs. Yet, we've always found a way to balance these needs. We built high-rise housing estates to house a growing population, but set aside large nature reserves with about a third of the island covered by trees. With careful planning and in pursuit of our city and nature vision, we've been able to protect and enhance ecological important sites as green spaces and carbon sinks over the years. We're looking at more possibilities to enhance ecological connectivity and provide more green spaces for Singaporeans. Second, we do not have the same options for alternative energy as other larger countries. We have neither great rivers for hydroelectric power nor strong winds required for wind power. We are alternative energy disadvantaged. Solar energy is our most viable renewable energy option, but even that is limited by available land area, urban shade, and intermittency issues. Nevertheless, we have set ambitious solar deployment targets of 1.5 gigawatt peak of solar deployment by 2025 and at least 2 gigawatt peak by 2030. As Mr. Henry Craig highlighted, we're taking a holistic approach to our energy challenge. We're tapping our 4 energy supply switches. Other than solar, we rely on natural gas, which is the cleanest burning fuel, regional power grids, and low-carbon alternatives. Energy conservation is a key priority. Other clean energy solutions may not be mature today, but show promise in contributing to our energy transformation efforts. Low-carbon hydrogen is one such emerging solution. Our research institutes are actively pursuing low-carbon energy research and development to unlock this potential over time. Third, with no hinterland and no natural resources, we need a vibrant economy that is well plugged into the global economy. This will create jobs and opportunities for our people. To protect us from external shocks, we need a diversified economy, including maintaining manufacturing capabilities and capacity. This is especially so in a post-COVID-19 world, where resilience, inclusiveness, and reliability have become paramount. At the same time, sustainability is at the top of mind for investors and consumers. To remain competitive, we have to take into account these realities and balance our competing national priorities. The energy and chemical sectors contributed around 3% of Singapore's GDP and employed over 25,000 in 2019. It also enables many other parts of the economy by transforming raw materials into important products that we use, including the personal protective equipment, PPE, for our healthcare workers. Our E&C sector produces not only for Singapore, but for the world. We aim to be a responsible supplier of such products, helping our industries to shift towards lower carbon products and be among the best in class in energy and carbon efficiency globally. Early on, we dared to transform Jurong Island into a world-class chemicals hub, even though we had no oil nor gas resources. Today, Jurong Island is home to over 100 global chemical firms. The E&C sector will play a key role in the global transition to a low-carbon future. For example, the chemicals industry provides silver paste, high-performance plastic films, and membranes that go into photovoltaic cells and batteries for electric vehicles. Members may be aware that Neste, the largest renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel producer worldwide, will be operating its largest renewable refinery in Singapore. Neste opened the first phase of its plant in 2010 and will be doubling its refining capacity to about 2.6 million tons of renewable fuels per annum. The E&C sector is also a key partner in the development of emerging low-carbon technologies, such as carbon capture, utilization, and storage. These technologies can be pivotal in enabling decarbonization at scale. Singapore will benefit from anchoring industry players here. We face inherent challenges as a nation, yet we have always tackled them squarely, turning challenges into opportunities. This continues to hold true as we apply the same determination to tackling climate change. Members have highlighted that Singapore is already feeling the impacts of climate change. Members like Louis Ng, Ms. Nadia Samdin, Prof. Koh Lian Pin. 2020 was one of the top 10 warmest years on record. Yet, June 2020 was one of the wettest and coolest Junes we have had in decades. Our weather is getting warmer, rainstorms heavier, and dry spells more pronounced. Climate change can result in more frequent episodes of extreme weather, disrupt global supply chains, encourage diseases like dengue, and threaten access to food, water, and energy. To effectively tackle climate change, we set up the Interministerial Committee on Climate Change, IMCCC, in 2007, and the National Climate Change Secretariat in 2010. At that time, climate negotiations were just ramping up. We needed a whole-of-government effort with top-level leadership. The IMCCC has played a key role to oversee and coordinate both the international negotiations and domestic aspects of our climate change efforts over the years. So since 2007, more than 10 years ago. And because of this, we have a strong climate action plan today. To better understand climate change and its impact, we made early investments to boost our climate science capabilities. This will increase the scientific rigor in our policies. Launched in 2013, the Centre for Climate Research Singapore, CCRS, is now one of the few leading centres in the region, focusing on research in tropical weather and climate. Last year, we set up the Climate Science Research Programme Office under the CCRS to drive our National Climate Science Research Master Plan. Climate change is a global challenge, which will require an international solution. No single country will be able to tackle climate change on its own. Singapore cannot go it alone. To mitigate the global climate threat, we need a strong global response. All countries, big and small, must join hands to do their part. As a responsible global citizen, Singapore too will play our part as part of a larger international solution. This is why we are a strong advocate for a robust, multilateral, rule-based approach to addressing climate change. Although we contribute to only 0.1% of global emissions, we have and we will continue to push the envelope on climate ambition, taking into account our constraints. We have been playing an active role to sustain the momentum for global climate action, whether at the annual conference of the parties, to the UNFCCC, or by supporting fellow small states and developing countries to build capacity, implement and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. We are proud that experts from our universities are making useful contributions. Associate Professors Winston Chow from SMU, Lynette Chia from SUTD, and Professor Benjamin Horton from NTU are participating actively in the sixth assessment cycle of the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. Sorry, let me say that. The sixth assessment cycle of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. Singapore was one of the first few countries, in fact, to ratify the Paris Agreement, which enabled its early entry into force. As a signatory to the Paris Agreement, we have pledged to peak our emissions at 65 million tons of CO2 equivalent around 2030 and aspire to halve emissions from its peak to 33 million tons by 2050. We will seek to achieve net zero emissions as soon as viable in the second half of the century. As members has highlighted, we do not make commitments lightly because we have every intention to make this commitment a reality. After deliberation, we have made several enhancements to our NDC, including a clear peaking target and detailed implementation efforts. Given our circumstances, these targets are challenging and ambitious, yet credible. For example, even if we were to put solar PVs on every single rooftop on our HDB estates, we will still need to rely on natural gas for our electricity needs unless there are breakthroughs in needle-moving technologies like low-carbon fuels such as hydrogen or low-carbon solutions like CCUS. We consulted widely, and our strategies strike a careful balance between all stakeholders, individuals, businesses, green groups, and academia. Many of them recognize the constraints and trade-offs that we have to work with and appreciate that we back our ambition with concrete targets and action. We will take a serious, hard look at our emissions and continue to transform our industry, economy, and society. To achieve deep emissions cuts, we will need to draw on technologies that are still nascent today and pursue international and regional collaboration. We have to rely heavily on cross-border collaboration, such as regional electricity grids and the establishment of a robust international carbon market with high environmental integrity. These are long-term strategies. Over time, we will gain experience and better understand the extent to which potential emissions reductions can be realized. This will help us further calibrate our actions to achieve positive climate impact. Central to our climate mitigation strategy is our carbon tax. We are the first in Southeast Asia to have implemented a carbon tax in 2019. Our carbon tax framework has been tailored to our context, putting in place a fair, uniform, and transparent price signal to incentivize emission reductions. At 80% of our total emissions, our carbon tax coverage is one of the most comprehensive globally, and we have not provided exemptions to any of our covered facilities. We agree with members on the importance of a strong carbon price signal in moving our industries. Several members, Mr. Henry Craig, Mr. Louis Cha, provided comments on how our carbon price should be raised. We will review our carbon price by 2023 with the intent of raising the tax rate by 2030, and we note the suggestions made by Member James Lim. We will take into account international climate change developments, the progress of our climate mitigation efforts, and our economic competitiveness. We will continue to work closely with all relevant stakeholders to address concerns. Learning from our carbon tax experience so far, what had worked well for us was the clarity in our communications and close cooperation with our companies. By announcing the intent to review our tax rate early, we had provided a clear sense of direction. This gave us and our companies the confidence and time to transit to a competitive low-carbon economy. This consultative approach must continue to feature in our work. Our carbon tax is not a stand-alone measure. We are committed to supporting our businesses and households transit to a low-carbon future and are prepared to spend more than what we collect in carbon tax revenue in the first 5 years on worthwhile projects to achieve emissions reduction. On our building sector, which Ms. Polisan spoke on, we have indeed come a long way in our green buildings journey. Over the years, we have progressively raised our building sustainability standards and stepped up efforts to encourage the adoption of green technology and sustainable practices. This is not just in the construction process, but throughout the building life cycle. While we have made significant advances in the energy efficiency of our buildings, we still need building users to play their part in managing energy consumption, for example, by reducing the use of air conditioning. Despite our constraints as a highly urbanized tropical city, we are committed to further reducing the carbon footprint of our built environment. We will continue to push for the adoption of super low energy buildings and to support the development of energy efficient and cost efficient green technologies. We have been working with stakeholders on how we can achieve these aims in the next edition of the Singapore Green Building Master Plan. Mindful that we might not be able to reverse climate change completely, adaptation must also feature in our plans. We take a long-term approach to building up our climate resilience, from coastal adaptation to mitigation in urban heat island effects and enhancing our food supply resilience. We will plan ahead, invest in science and technology, and develop innovative solutions. Our plans will include a combination of measures, including nature-based solutions, as Professor Koh Lian Pin has mentioned. The benefits to such solutions are multifold: conserving our biodiversity and creating new recreational space for the community to enhance our living environment. And importantly, as Ms. Nadia Samdin and Professor Koh has mentioned, these solutions will also contribute to mitigating climate change. This is an exciting, growing area that we will study closely and work in partnership with our researchers as well as international counterparts. While we have been taking serious steps through our climate action plan, there is much more we can do together in the coming years. Not only will this allow us to cope with our challenges, it will provide new opportunities to test bed and commercialize new solutions in Singapore, which may be relevant for other cities and other countries facing similar challenges. We must adopt an enabling mindset and environment and actively engage scientists, businesses, and citizens in meaningful partnerships, including civil society groups. This will keep us agile and tapping opportunities as the world transits to This will keep us agile in tapping opportunities as the world transits to a low-carbon future. COVID-19 has underscored the importance of transformation, resilience, and cohesion in societies. Singapore will strive to emerge stronger together from the COVID-19 crisis and build back greener and better. We will promote green growth. We are actively pursuing new opportunities, both in existing sectors and new sectors that Singapore companies can thrive in. We will build an ecosystem to support and equip our companies and people with the right skills to seize these opportunities. For example, developing Singapore's capability in green financing will catalyze the growth of sustainable practices For example, developing Singapore's capability in green financing will catalyze the growth of sustainability practices in our economy and enhance our competitiveness. Global investors are increasingly sensitized to environmental, social, and governance issues, and the right allocation of capital will support sustainability projects and unlock green growth opportunities and good jobs for Singaporeans. As Mr. Henry Quek highlighted, by harnessing the potential of our carbon services industry to grow Singapore into a leading carbon trading and services hub, we can build an ecosystem of expertise in this growing field. Plastics, an issue of growing global concern, also presents an opportunity. Just as we close the water loop, we hope to do the same for plastics. Mechanical recycling and chemical recycling solutions can turn plastic waste into usable plastics. We're actively exploring chemical recycling that turns plastics which are not suitable for traditional mechanical recycling, including contaminated ones, into new oil. As part of the Research, Innovation and Enterprise RIE 2025 plan, We will strengthen the networks between our research institutes and between research institutions and companies. The solutions for sustainability and climate change will come from such multidisciplinary yet disciplined approach to research, development, and enterprise. We will green transport. Singapore is investing in public transport and is the only country in the world that has a zero growth policy for vehicles. We will go further in making our vehicles green, including through the electrification of vehicles. The government aims to phase out internal combustion engine vehicles and have all vehicles run on cleaner energy by 2040. We are working closely with stakeholders, including the private sector, to catalyze the adoption of electric vehicles. We will be enhancing the public sector, taking the lead in environmental sustainability initiative so that we leverage the collective capabilities across the government to improve resource efficiency and pursue environmental sustainability in the public sector. This brings me to the importance of deepening engagement. Mr. Louis Ng, Ms. Henny So, Ms. Nadia Samdin, Mr. Seah Kian Peng brought up the need to rally everyone around the common goal of sustainable development. An engagement not only with our community and 3P partners across the people, public and private sectors, but also harmonious engagement with our natural environment. We strongly believe in the importance of this and have been engaging communities, schools, and individuals through citizen science programs and the 1 Million Tree Movement, among others. We will continue to do more and recently launched the Youth at SG Nature initiative to provide young people with more platforms to engage with nature. Educating our young on environmental sustainability and climate change is important. The government will continue to strengthen the learning experiences for students and mold the values of our future generations. We have heard similar hopes and aspirations and more at our Emerging Stronger conversations, which many of us have been involved in, and other platforms. These are areas of key priority to the government. The government has heard the voices, the suggestions, and are actively incorporating these suggestions into our plans. While building on many of our past policies and programs, we can do more to pool these different strengths and efforts together, culminating in a common, united vision. This motion is therefore timely. Over the last few months, the government has been making preparations to launch a whole-of-nation movement to advance the sustainability agenda in Singapore. We call this the Singapore Green Plan 2030, or in short, the Green Plan. This is a multi-ministry effort and will be a major policy priority for this government. Under the Green Plan, agency will set ambitious and concrete targets on a sectoral basis, building on what we have achieved. We want to rally and work with our 3P partners by articulating our priorities and goals, and we will consciously create space for the community to join hands and do more together. Ministers and political office holders will be actively involved in the development of comprehensive programs as part of this national engagement process. It is not just about getting feedback on government policies, but working together to co-create solutions. Every sector and every action will count. Through this process, we hope to catalyze bold, balanced, and collective action. Bold, that we push the envelope on all fronts, challenging ourselves to do more in spite of our national circumstances and constraints. Balanced, for we know that with every action and target, there are considerations and trade-offs to be made, and every Singaporean must have a voice and stake in our sustainability journey. And collective, because we need all parties, all 3P parties, all segments of the society to work with us to make the Green Plan a reality. We will announce more details in the coming weeks. DPM will speak about our sustainability agenda during the budget debates. The government has every intent, as the motion states, to partner the private sector and the people of Singapore to deepen and accelerate efforts to mitigate and adapt to climate change and to embrace sustainability in the development of Singapore. Sustainability is a journey, not a destination. Our work to achieve sustainable development is never done. Our Singapore Green Plan will be a living document. We will adapt our plans, ambitions, and policies over time. Circumstances will change. New opportunities will emerge. New ideas, initiatives will present themselves as we work with our citizens, businesses, and communities. More importantly, we must build the social compact to deal with the challenges of climate change and sustainability. Just as we have come together to fight the COVID-19 pandemic collectively, we will need to act with the same sense of solidarity and make collective, informed decisions on the steps we will take to achieve sustainable development as a society. As we walk together on the sustainability journey, it is not enough for us to just set up impressive-sounding goals. We will need to consider Singapore's circumstances and constraints. We may not be able to avail ourselves of solutions deployed in countries like China, Japan, and South Korea. On the other hand, as cities, we are as ambitious, if not more so, as Beijing, Tokyo, and Seoul. This will involve candid discussions on the costs and trade-offs involved, which we will have to bear whether as consumers, as businesses, or as the government. These costs may manifest in the change in the price for a good or service we enjoy today, the cost of producing a product, and the need to allocate scarce resource to a new solution, the investment in new infrastructure, or some inconveniences in changing our habits and the way we do things. These costs are not a given, as they can be mitigated by the choices we make. As individuals, we can consume less, use less air conditioning, and recycle more. As companies, we can redesign our business operations with greater efficiency in the use of resources. And the cost differences will close over time as technology advances, as we are seeing with electric vehicles, for example. Hence, we need to evaluate each choice carefully and find the right pace and balance in our policies and actions, taking into account our realities as a small city-state. Trade-offs we must make and changes we must pursue, for the consequences of not doing so will inflict on us costs that are many times greater in the future. Disruptions to essential supplies, increased exposure to vector-borne diseases, and catastrophic weather. How we view these costs and how we achieve that balance to build a sustainable future will define us and will be defined by us. The many valuable suggestions and contributions shared in this House today are very encouraging. We will consider each idea seriously. For some, you'll be pleased to know that work is underway and you'll hear more about it in the Green Plan. For others, more time may be needed for study and review and consultation. Sustainability is not just about doing more, but doing more together in an inclusive way with all our stakeholders on board. I hope that members will support us and work with us on this national movement. It is often said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. Climate change requires us to envision a new future and be prepared to give up the old to embrace the new. And we firmly believe that in Singapore, we will co-create a sustainable future for present and future generations. On this note, I support the motion and look forward to working with all of you on this journey towards sustainability. Thank you.